Stop over medicalizing and start proper symptom management. Stop providing a pill for every ill. Listen to your patient. You don't need to live with it. Definitely not. You shouldn't take that as an answer. We don't need to live with pain and suffering. That's enough. You something, obviously, and you've got to listen to the whispers. Stress and cortisol plays a part with gut. There is a correlation between gut and thyroid. We know that there's a correlation between gut and the brain because of the brain axis, the superhighway called the vagus nerve. When I was 19, I was sent to Royal Melbourne Hospital being under the suspicion that it was a cancer. They thought it was bone cancer or leukemia. I couldn't walk up the stairs. I was getting sick every day. I was losing my voice. It doesn't kill you, makes you stronger. That's what they say. What's most frustrating is that women's symptoms are being ignored and swiped. I call it the peri-swipe. They come to see me and they say, I'm not depressed. I'm depressed because of what I've been through, but I don't suffer clinical depression, nor do I suffer anxiety. But I feel like I'm going crazy because no one is listening to me. Don't accept being gaslit by your medical professional. There's no hierarchy between your medical professional and yourself. My advice is that you see a health professional who is going to look at you for you, have a look at the underlying causes, at the root cause, and give you the best protocol.
What if everything you thought you knew about why you feel exhausted, hormonal, anxious, or stuck was only half the story? My guest today has spent 20 years inside healthcare system watching that half story play out over and over for millions of people, and she decided to do something about it. If this is your first time here, welcome to the Ravi Atle Perspective. Hit subscribe because the conversation we are about to have, this one, I have genuinely been looking forward for weeks. My guest today is founder of Embrace Functional Medicine and Holistic Health, a certified functional medicine, a practitioner, herbalist, and a health coach. And she has spent the better part of 2 decades supporting people through hormone imbalances, perimenopause, gut health, thyroid dysfunction, burnout, and nervous system dysregulation, using an approach she describes as evidence-informed and deeply compassionate. Sharon, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Ravi, for having me on.
Sharon, your tagline, the one that's everywhere on your practice, is where science meets soul. I want to start right there in one sentence. What does that actually mean when someone walks through your door for the first time?
Yeah, so where science meets soul is basically my science hat. So I have a science degree and I have science, biomedical science. So it's where science meets that real alternative side, the core of what I'm doing in the work that I'm doing at the moment. So it's
Okay.
that soulful energy, that purpose I have, that place I have, and that place I provide my clients with. So it's science meeting that soulful, really natural side.
Okay.
Whereas science has that natural side, but that more sort of even deeper side that the soulfulness has. And when I looked at that as my tag, I felt it just really resonated with me in what I'm doing, because when I started in this space, it was extremely scientific. I come from a science background, and
Yeah.
all of a sudden I was moving away into that more soulful, meeting yourself, finding yourself sort of space. And that's what I was doing in my own journey with my own health. That's where that really comes from.
Sacred. Yeah, that's a very powerful word. So, Sharon, help me picture this scene for me. What does the first 10 minutes of a session with you look like when a GP appointment simply doesn't?
Yeah, absolutely. So coming back to providing that space, that's what
Okay.
I do, Ravi. So my exploratory session is all about listening to the person. So before that, I've collated all of their information. I've read their questionnaires. I've got to know them. Like if I haven't met them in person, I get to know them with their questionnaires and all of their symptoms and everything else that's going on. That exploratory session enables them to really connect with me and
Okay.
tell their story. So I'm offering that time and space that we're not getting in conventional medicine because our general practitioners are time poor, specialists are time poor, and not providing that extra, I guess, time to get to know the patient.
So can I say get to know the root cause symptoms?
In order to know the root cause symptoms, we need to know the person's story. Everybody's got a story to tell. Everybody comes from a journey. Our health comes from our journey. In conventional medicine, they will look at the symptoms there and then and maybe just treat one small area or treat the actual issue with the Band-Aid, whereas I look at the whole person. We're looking holistically. Root cause is about diving in and looking at the whole person and what's going on rather than in parts and pieces. Just say this sore foot comes from a long journey.
That's
It's not
right.
just now you're experiencing the sore foot. The sore foot is deriving from sequences of your life that have happened in the past. And it could be in childhood.
With trauma, something like that.
Yeah, trauma is a big one. Everybody has a bit of trauma. A lot of
Yeah,
people are traumatized. People are
definitely.
living with trauma more often than we know. And probably some people have recognized it, some people haven't. It is really just owing to that we say this is in functional medicine. We need to recognize that someone has come from, say, trauma or this experience. They've had even their ancestors. Epigenetics looks at what your great grandparents have been exposed to. We know that certain breast cancers can develop in women in my age group who have had great grandparents exposed to forms of radiation overseas or other environmental exposure. Wasn't passed on to their parents, but onto them. So they've had no other reason for it. But we have to really take that deep dive to see exactly the whys and the hows, because we can't fully treat someone without knowing their story. And that's my philosophy on that.
Thanks for that insight. I think that is so deep, to be honest, and that is what needs to be done. Thanks for that, Sharon. So, moving on, you founded Embrace Functional Medicine
Yes.
and Holistic Health after 20 years plus in the mainstream health system. Now, I want the real answer here, not the polished one, not the political one. Sharon, what finally made you look at the system and say, this isn't enough anymore?
So my own experience, Ravi, my
Okay.
own journey with my own health. I was diagnosed with an autoimmune disorder at age 19, and by age 27, I was diagnosed with endometriosis. So I had a
Oh,
fairly long battle of illness that I was in and out of the silos of specialist care and hospital care. My first year of uni, I was in hospital for quite a few months. Embrace was born to honor what I was unable to find in my experience in the conventional setting,
okay.
with great gratitude to all of the nursing staff and all the staff that was there in the hospital setting. I'd left the setting without really having a full diagnosis of what was going on for me and still with questions unanswered. Embrace has come from looking at me being that balance between, if you have been diagnosed, what happens next? So normally people will come to me because, like myself, when I was diagnosed with endometriosis, I was just left. Or when I was diagnosed with a suspected autoimmune disorder or rheumatoid arthritis, which was what they said in the end, because they
Yeah.
thought it was bone cancer or leukemia.
They say that.
Yeah, when I was 19, I was sent to Royal Melbourne Hospital being under the suspicion that it was a cancer. So my mum had found this out and obviously didn't tell me, but I got really sick in my first year of uni. I couldn't walk up the stairs. I was getting sick every day. I was losing my voice.
Which uni was that? Automighty?
VUT, Victoria
Okay.
University. I later went to Melbourne.
19 years of age and going through the pain and the trauma, and that made you, I reckon, the stronger person. You didn't become a bitter person, you became a better person. And that's why I thought of starting this beautiful journey, which you just name it, embrace functional medicine and holistic health. Am I right?
You were right. It doesn't kill you, makes you stronger. I left with no answers. I had to find the answers myself. So remember, at this time, I'm studying nursing biomedical science, and I wanted to know the answers. I was inquisitive and curious why I was
Mhm.
left in bed, riddled with pain, why I couldn't walk, why I was losing so much weight. I needed to know what was happening. That was when I sent my dad to the library because I had to come back to go home to bed, because sometimes they'd have to pick me up out of bed, put me back into bed. They have to help me to walk, to go to the toilet.
So you were totally bedridden?
Basically, for that year, I was,
19 years of age, and this is what happened. 19 years is you go on date, you go on partying, you go to beach, you go to do so many
oh, I
things.
still wanted to nightclub, but I wasn't allowed.
What a nightmare.
Yeah.
So let's get into your work now, because I think most people have heard the phrase functional medicine and have absolutely no idea what it actually means day to day. So walk me through, Sharon, what actually happens when someone comes to you, let's say any woman in her mid 40s, hormone chaos, totally exhausted. She's got a gut issue. I've got it. I'll share it with you as we move along. Doctors told her everything looks fine. The GP always say, "Oh, it's all right." What does working with you specially look like that she hasn't experienced before?
Absolutely, Ravi. So, yeah, functional medicine does exactly that. It takes a deeper look. It puts the lens on your blood tests. It puts the lens on what's happening behind the scenes. So, functional medicine is taking a look under the hood to see exactly what's going on. So, when that woman is feeling exhausted, has her mood swings, and that woman has got gut issues, and these are the predisposing factors,
Yeah.
but goes into the conventional setting, has a whole lot of blood tests done, and is told that those bloods are normal, there's nothing wrong with you, Mrs. Smith, everything is fine, just go away and take a Panadol, they're left feeling confused. So functional medicine looks at what is actually going on, which isn't found in the conventional setting. So it takes that alternative, holistic root cause. It looks at exactly what's happening. So instead of just saying it might be this, it might be that, it's depression and anxiety, here's a pill for every ill, it actually gives you a protocol to work on. So you're actually being supported by leaving with a really rigorous protocol. So it might be looking at herbal medicine, it could be looking at nutraceuticals and other supplements, lifestyle intervention, nutrition, diet and nutrition is so important, food is medicine. You're given a holistic menu, and it's a bespoke journey. So every journey, like every blood test that comes through is different. That person is treated like an individual, is not a one size fits all, which we find in conventional medicine. Take this anti-anxiety pill, take this antidepressant, take
All of
this.
this one size fits all because it never does.
No, that's right. Exactly.
So that's a very good insight, to be honest. Let's talk about premenopause specifically, because I don't know what it is. I will never experience that. But because I know this is closer to your heart and you've written about it, you've spoken about it, women comes to you after being told their symptoms are just normal. What is the most frustrating thing you hear in that first conversation?
I feel what's most frustrating is that women's symptoms are being ignored and swiped. I call it the peri swipe. I've actually named it myself. The peri swipe is when a woman goes in to see her provider and is saying, I feel X, Y, and Z, mood swings, insomnia, erratic period. It could be gut issues again, migraine. And they sideswipe it for something else like anxiety or depression. So what aggravates me is that women come to me in tears because they're being told they have anxiety or depression, when really they are suffering perimenopausal or really rampant menopausal symptoms.
So you reckon, Sharon, that the GP in Australia, they misunderstood what premenopause is?
Absolutely. Look, GPs have very little training in menopause unless they've become functional GPs or they've done CPDs in menopause. In the GP training through the RACGP, there is very little lecture on it. There's not much. So they're not as informed as they should be. So a lot of them find it hard to circumnavigate that whole topic without maybe referring you on to somebody else. But the answer, unfortunately, is often in providing that patient with an antidepressant. So they might walk out with an antidepressant, an anti-anxiety, and some Nexium, which is a proton pump inhibitor, which can
Okay.
cause cardiovascular issues and
Oh,
lots of vitamin and mineral deficiencies. So it's a Band-Aid effect. So that's why I call it the peri-swipe, because they're swiped aside and put into a box of she's got mood swings and she can't sleep and she's having erratic moments in her day and hot flushes left, right, and center.
yeah.
She's depressed or she's anxious. It's just anxiety. You're just feeling down. You're feeling down because of the symptoms, absolutely. But they know, they come to see me and they say, I'm not depressed. I'm depressed because of what I've been through, but I don't suffer clinical depression, nor do I suffer anxiety. I know what anxiety is about. I've read about it. This is not what I'm experiencing. I'm experiencing these symptoms, but I feel like I'm going crazy because no one is listening to me.
What is age or when you get premenopause? What is the age range?
So perimenopause can start from about age 37.
Okay.
So women can be going through perimenopause for about 10 to 13 years, some less, until they reach menopause, which is the last day of their period.
When does that get over?
So a woman can call herself menopausal on the first day after 12 months of no bleeding. If she's had spotting or something happen, even at the 9-month interval, and she's had spotting, you have to start all over again. So she can't call herself menopausal until she's had 1 year fully blown, no bleeding whatsoever.
Okay. I didn't know that. I knew what was that, periods and all that. Thanks for that insight, to be honest. And people, those who are going to watch this, they need to know how difficult it is for women. We as men don't get to understand that because we can't experience it, right?
There's interesting conversation, Ravi, that you're bringing that up right now, because I'm in conversations with a few guys about menopause, a couple of blokes that I'm in a circle with, and they've all had experienced past relationships and relationship breakdown as a result of their partners being fully blown menopausal and that affecting their marriage.
And the people need to know about the partner's periods, the symptoms, mood swings, and when she is experiencing a perimenopause, they need to know what it is. As men, we don't. Obviously, she's not in a mood. She doesn't want to do this and that.
Yes.
That is the where we need to chip in and really understand the partner, which we
Yes.
don't.
So
And
true.
because we don't experience it. See, if I don't experience your pain, I've got severe acute GORD and IBS. People don't understand what it is. As men, we need to really understand what a woman goes through these different life-changing experiences.
Absolutely.
Body-changing experiences, if I put it in this way. And you have also started working with men through your Men's Thrive work.
Absolutely, yes.
That's a real pivot from your roots in women's health. What surprised you the most about how different men's experience and hide their health struggle?
Yes, so interesting. It is. It's working with apples and pears.
Yeah, it is. It's not apple to apple, it's different.
It is very different. I love my Men's Thrive program. My Men's Thrive program was born out of the work I've been doing with Diabetes Victoria as a holistic health coach for them for 17 years. So I was realizing the men had a high predisposition for type 2 diabetes, heart disease, and stroke, but they also had a very high predisposition to mental health issues. So I was really vested in ways to help men. I'd understood in the workplace, I was doing workplace chats. I was understanding that men were those who were becoming divorced or men that were going through other family pressures were undergoing a lot of mental health strains and suicidal thoughts.
You reckon different culture backgrounds plays an important role here for men? different beliefs?
Yeah, absolutely. I think so. I'm going to say it as an Aussie, as an Australian here.
Yeah.
I think the classic Australian male is that cultured, working hard, maybe looking after the family, doing all of those things, mainly irrespective of their cultural background. But I know with the European male, maybe less inclined to go and see the GP.
Why?
I think it's a weakness. I think men will prefer to put off their own health and well-being. They'll put off going to see the GP to get that blood test done. I think they feel just brushing it over, not attending to themselves. It might feel a bit more feminine. It might feel
You also
feminine.
reckon it could be an ego, it could be attitude that I'm a man, nothing is wrong with me.
Absolutely, it is. Guys are more likely to feel that I'm fine, nothing is wrong. I've been brought up to be tough. I've been brought up to not cry. There's all of that in there as well. Some men are quite stubborn about getting checked. Some men are still reluctant to come in and see me. Often their wives have sent them in, or they've just really saw my work or spoken to somebody and thought, I need some help. But they're still very reluctant to stand up and say, right, I need to get my blood test done. Sometimes it can be like pulling teeth out to get the blokes to get their blood test done.
Okay.
Because I'll be like, have you done your blood test yet? And they'll be, oh no, maybe next weekend I'm off, or got to get onto that, you got to do that. And it never happens until finally they do. Then they get the health scare they don't want from their GP. And that's when they think, okay, I've got to listen. I've got to do something now. I've come back to see you because my general practitioner said that my cholesterol was through the roof and I'm pre-diabetic. I don't want to go down diabetes trail. Now my wife has put me on a new diet and save me, please.
I need to come to the next question, which is very close to my heart. Many people knows about it, but they tend to ignore. Gut health is everywhere right now. And I have been the victim of it for last 20 plus years. Every wellness brand has a probiotic. Every influencer has a protocol. What do most people fundamentally misunderstand about the gut hormone connection?
I feel, look, this goes back to that whole one size fits all. Gut health has become massive marketing, right?
It is.
And you're right, because everybody's on a shake or someone's on a probiotic, as you said. There's a one size fits all approach. There's a million zillion things, excluding the kitchen sink, thrown into supplements.
Yes.
I think people misunderstand that all health begins in the gut and healing does begin in the gut. But we are very much about our own microflora. My microbiome, which is the proportion of bacteria in my gut, will be different to yours, and so on and so forth, because we've had different cultural experiences, we've eaten differently, we're genetically different. That one size approach doesn't fit all in this, and people get thrown into the mass marketing of it and will go on things that can make their gut worse. So can lead to GORD, can lead to SIBO, which is small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, because they've been on the wrong types of probiotics or prebiotics. Not one strain is going to suit everybody. And this is the misconception, because we can buy supplements or we can buy probiotics that have 500,000 strains in them, but it's like someone gate crashing a party.
That's
If
right.
you've got a party going on and you've got a whole group coming in and they're baddies, yeah, they come in and they gate crash,
Yeah.
they're going to cause a rift. They're going to cause controversy. And some people will say to me, oh, I'm coming to see you for gut health. I have started a probiotic, but since then I think I feel worse. And that's normally what happens, because a probiotic is really needed once gut healing is commenced. We need to heal the gut first. And that's the misconception that people don't understand. Like, I have clients that I work on with diabetes and the diabetes program, and they'll say to me, oh, just give me a 7-day meal plan. And I say, but you've got gut issues.
Yeah.
If I give you that, you're just still going to suffer the triggers you're already suffering. It's not going to make a difference. We need to heal the gut. We need to start with that first. And that's first and foremost.
Okay. I'm going to give my as an example to you. So let's say I come to you and I've got acute GORD and irritable bowel syndrome. It's been 20 years. I've been to many doctors, same thing, IBS, there's no cure. So don't drink, don't smoke, don't do this, no spicy food, no oil, no junk food. I exercise every day. I go to gym, hit the gym very hard. A very healthy lifestyle, healthy food. There's a pain in my gut all the time. Recently, endoscopy, colonoscopy was done again. My CT scan was done again. They just didn't find anything. They said everything is good. You need to live with it. But I can't because I've got a pain in my gut 24/7. That is impacting my social life. So I'm just giving you more example because I've got a severe gut issue. All the doctors say the same thing, Ravi. You need to live with that. There's no cure. So what do you reckon on this?
I think you don't need to live with it. Definitely not. That's not, you shouldn't take that as an answer. We don't need to live with pain and suffering. That's a no-no. Your gut is telling you something, obviously, and you've got to listen to the whispers. That's what I think. Stress and anxiety plays a part. Stress and cortisol plays a part with gut. Environmental triggers, environmental stimulants. So I do a gut, adrenal, and thyroid program. So when I send a questionnaire across, it covers everything. And then some of these areas are crossed over because there is a correlation between gut and thyroid. We know that there's a correlation between gut and the brain because of the brain axis, the superhighway called the vagus nerve. You've probably heard of
I
it.
was told that when my first endoscopy, colonoscopy was done, and he said, Ravi, your brain sends the wrong signal to your gut, and that is why this is happening. Is it true?
Look, for IBS, that can be the case because we understand irritable bowel syndrome is quite a functional syndrome. We can't diagnose it. It's really a cluster of symptoms that's in one umbrella.
Is
We
it
know
is it hereditary?
IBS can be hereditary, definitely.
My mom has been suffering from it. It's been last 40 years.
Wow, long time.
And my mom's is really bad, like really bad with the IBS. Mine is still in control. Or I don't take any dairy products or anything like that. It's still under control some, but that pain, that irritation, that frustration is
Yes.
always this. While talking right now, I've got that pain and I'm a bit irritated and sometimes I'm frustrated. That is what I'm trying to say. What could I do to ease the pain?
Have you done a whole gut healing protocol before?
It was done in Australia. It was done here as well. They just
Gut healing protocol, though, what was included in that?
they had a 7-day program in that, and they had done different bits and pieces. I don't remember right now. It's a long time, 15, 16 years ago. And they did everything, and they said it looks all right.
So a rigorous gut healing protocol, Ravi, would take about, say, 8 weeks.
No, it wasn't 8 weeks. It was a week and a half, if I'm not wrong.
Okay. So it might not have taken a deeper dive into what's going on, and you weren't given the best healing protocol. So as I said, healing of the gut, working on the gut happens in stages. Sometimes we'll do an elimination phase. Sometimes you might reinoculate with certain supplements or whatever, but it needs to be done in an orderly, elegant fashion. It's not something I overdo. Everyone is different. So not everybody will be on the same gut protocol or the same supplements or the same eating plan because you might have different triggers than the next person, which is true. You might have a predisposition to gluten intolerance, but not celiac. You could have specific food intolerances or triggers that will subside with a gut protocol, but are very different to the next person who it might be almonds, for example, who might be allergic to. At blood work, I mean, did they do your GI mapping? Was your stools tested?
Everything.
Did you do a transit test?
I don't remember now. They said, Ravi, what we're going to do is we're going to take good bacteria from someone's poo.
Yeah.
And we're going to put it inside you. And eventually, you would become a better person. You would feel good. But they reckon we don't do that most of the time because you need to be the ideal patient for it, which I was not at that time. So I don't know if that was the best way of doing it or not.
Did they say why you weren't an ideal patient at the time?
They might have, but I don't remember.
Look, when people work with me with gut, it doesn't take a week, Ravi. The whole process is 8 weeks, but then you have to follow up after that
Yeah.
and assessing. And in 12 months, we review what's been happening, because for gut microbiome to be restored, doesn't take too long, about 8 weeks. But then we want to make sure we've got the right bacteria in there. I'm really specific about people's bowel movement. If they're not a good Bristol 4 on the Bristol stool chart, then there's something going on. You know what I mean?
Mine is there's always a mucus. Always a mucus.
So it sounds like fat malabsorption. Have you had your gallbladder removed?
No.
Sounds like some fat malabsorption then.
Okay.
You might be passing fat rather than absorbing it, which could be small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. It might have to do with hyperpermeability, which is part of the large intestine.
But why can't they find it when they do endoscopy and colonoscopy?
Because that's looking for fissures, and it's looking for the bigger functional, not my functional.
Yes.
But it's looking for the bigger functional issues.
Mm-hmm.
Has he got an obstruction, right? Mm-hmm. Is there a kink in the bowel? Are there any growths? Are there any tumors? Are there any other sort of foreign objects in the way? In the lumen, in what should be a nice lumen way through, is what's happening functionally. When they don't see that, they're not going to see the smaller picture, which is a big picture because it makes a big deal, but they're not going to see that smaller picture that I look at. Okay. And that's where the work is done. Because I get lots of IBS sufferers who have been down the silos. They've had 10 colonoscopies and they've had 10 gastroscopies and ultrasounds and other scans. They've had maybe some poo tests, some stool tests generically done. They may have done, they might have done for the Helicobacter pylori.
Sharon, you openly talk about overgiving, pushing through exhaustion, carrying the weight of a business, a family, health challenges you spoke about, all while trying to show up fully for everyone else. You literally teach nervous system regulation to your clients. So what did it take you for you to finally apply it to yourself?
Look, I've been through stages in my life where my cup was empty, and I've been through exhaustion and I've been through burnout. There've just been instances where I've gone back to my own health journey where I've realized I've had to stop and give back to myself, and I've had to stop, because we can become overachievers. I can get that way. I can get really like, I just want to push on and keep going. And if today hasn't been successful, if today hasn't been productive, then I start questioning, oh my God, have I put in 110%? How come I didn't? What's happened today? Why don't I feel that? But I think as I'm going through perimenopause now, thankfully my symptoms are great, but I realize the importance of pausing. And I'm very much about making sure that we pause, we take time out. And if today needs to be a slow day, then so be it. And that's what I try to reinforce with my clients. I had this motto that good girl syndrome gets you sick. If we're going to be a people pleaser and do all the things because somebody has asked us to do 101 different things and it's not suiting us really, it can make you sick, especially if you put your own health on the back burner. Maybe you could have gone to get that massage instead, or maybe you could have gone and had that cup of tea under the tree and got some time in green space or sea space, which my thing is all about swimming in the ocean. I love that. When I get the opportunity to do that in summer, that's what I give back to myself. When that doesn't happen in the winter, it's obviously a bit harder. So I have to give back in other ways. But my motto is filling your cup up, filling back up again. If it means not worrying about the housework, or if it means just putting off bigger challenges because it's just too hard today, then so be it. I think, especially in perimenopause, because otherwise tiredness, fatigue, exhaustion becomes burnout. And some women find that they can't even get up out of bed because they've reached that allostatic load. That's because they've just been pushing on. I just feel we need to listen to the body and pull back when we need to. And that's what I think enables me to carry on too. Have a half an hour nap in the day if you can, or have some time to yourself I always say to clients, if you can't make a cup of tea, if you don't have time in the day to make yourself a cup of tea, then something is not right.
You need to please yourself first. You need to be in love with yourself, with your body. I'm sure now you have worked with Indigenous communities, Aboriginals. You have worked with called culturally and linguistically diverse women on the margins of the healthcare system, women who have been invisible to it for years. What did those women teach you that the formal qualification never could?
You're taking me back to such a beautiful time. Working with the Indigenous women, firstly, that close knit family connection that they have, they taught me, they've got their own medicine, but they taught me as well working with them because I was growing up quite a lot in that time frame. Their connection was all part and parcel of health. So I was delivering a health program at the time to them. I was delivering several health programs at the time. I had to advertise for that. I had to go through one of the aunties in the area and to the way my advertising was going to be. And at the time I was advertising and running other health programs. But in my mind, body, spirit program with the Indigenous women, I realized that my messaging needed to connect. It really needed to connect with the women. That was that sacred. That's my part of my saying where healing is sacred.
Okay.
That sacred healing is so important because if they didn't identify with the messaging, if they couldn't identify with the program, then they weren't going to come to me. And me being non-Indigenous, I had to make sure that they felt comfortable, that I was connecting with what they could understand from home.
Did you find any difference between being an Aboriginal woman or Indigenous and being a white Australian woman? With all due respect, I'm not discriminating anyone here. I'm just trying to go deep down. I want to delve into it. Did you find any differences, or there was a common thing which was there for both sides? How was it?
They definitely had a story to tell. They definitely had a sense of where they connected to the motherland. They were very, Indigenous people were more spiritually connected.
Okay.
They also had a story to tell and they were able to identify some of the issues, even though I was trying to develop and I was trying to implement a healthy eating program, or back then it might have been an exercise program or whatever it was that I was funded for at the time when I was working in there.
When was it? What time period? Year?
So we're talking early 2000s, into the early 2000s, up until I had my first child, 2005. So it was around that time frame. So definitely that how I look at things now, and like I love how they sit around and talk to each other, the women. They sit around like our ancestors, they share stories. That storytelling. You could call auntie and really feel connected to auntie. She is your auntie. I was in Fiji last year, Avi, and I fell in love with the women there. They were so connected. Everyone where we were staying was related, but we got along so well. They had such a beautiful sense of connection and belonging to each other and looking out for each other. They were poor. They were living, I saw some of their shacks and think that they were living in their living conditions, but they were happy. They were connected. They were very rich in connection. And I think that's something we may lose along the way, that sense of connection, that sense of longing, that sense of where our home is, because I feel our nervous system is really a part of that. Whatever we're feeling now is the journey our nervous system has been on. If it's in trauma, if it doesn't feel like it's at home, then it makes everything worse, where I feel they're probably a little more strengthened in that way, if that makes sense. And that was very different to the other programs I ran. I ran the cultural and diverse program for women. I spoke to women from European backgrounds. So I'd run programs for them to tell them to get their pap smear done.
Yeah.
So their annual cervical screening. That was a different program again. There was that language barrier. It was okay if some of them were Italian or Maltese. I could speak and understand both. But for someone else, there was still a bit of a language barrier because I was thrown in the deep end too at this
Yeah.
stage because I was the one doing all the work.
I was coming to that language as a barrier, like someone coming from a non-English speaking background, European, Asian, could be anyone.
Yeah.
How do you connect with that person? That's the first question. And second is, how do you do the analysis and come to a conclusion that something is wrong with that person? Could be a gut problem. How do you do it?
I think I've been used to working with women from diverse communities or diverse cultures with the diabetes program for the 17 years. If some of that's been over the phone, that's very tricky because I can't see their mouth, I can't see their gestures and their body language. I can just hear. So I'm pretty good at making out what people are saying.
Even
So
if they can't talk in English?
look, I get around it. I feel like I get to understand what they're saying. We find a mutual ground to work on, which is to say that we both understand.
So language is not a barrier for the pain, for the trauma to understand. Someone like you who has been doing this for so many years, language will never be a problem.
I think if you open up to someone enough and you show that warmth and you're there and you're providing them with a space, or you're just there to listen to them, whether it's face to face or on the phone or on Zoom, that person will open up enough to you so that you know exactly what's been going on. I feel I'm quite intuitive. I will say to someone, this and this is happening, or I have this message or something, and it'll be very bizarre because I'll get goosebumps, but I can relate well. Like I had grandparents that their English wasn't great, both of them. One was a little bit better than the other, but my Italian wasn't up to scratch. But we still communicated well. Like I could still communicate with a lot of the family. And I think I just had a knack for that.
So what? The knack.
I had the knack for understanding. Does that sound bizarre?
It doesn't. You've been contributing author on a book called Embrace Journey Back to Me. I really love that phrase or words. What part of your own story did writing that chapter force you to look at honest?
So it encapsulates everything, I think, my journey in general, my own health struggles. I went through some trauma myself, and I think during that time, I lost myself. I was studying at the time, and I think I always knew I wanted to do something great. And one thing was to write a book about what I was going through, what I'd been through. But I feel Embrace, look, back to me, the journey back to me is about how I've come to where I am now to tell the stories I can tell.
Okay.
And how I'm here as a person to help others, to be that person, to understand where they've come from, because I've probably been there myself with all the journey I've experienced too. That's really where that comes from. My childhood, the domestic home, my relationships out of that, my transitioning from the teenage years into my 20s.
Okay.
All of that transition, all those real pinnacle parts of my womanhood where I doubted myself, where I was scared, where I wasn't sure of what I was doing, where I knew I wanted to be, but how I was going to get there was the other thing. And I think writing the book is pretty much about that. And it's a reminder, it's a bit of a collection, a memoir of what I've been through. And I'm still growing. I'm at the trajectory, still growing myself. Yep. Some of that's hard to write. Some of it's not easy to write. And some of it I have to leave. I have to just set aside because
too much pain?
It can be painful.
Okay. Have you ever had a client whose physical symptoms completely resolved once the emotional root cause was addressed? So in very brief, did you have a client like this?
So not everybody wants to go on supplements and herbs and things like that. I've worked with clients just to look at food as medicine, but mainly to look at connecting the dots for the nervous system. So sometimes it's not even that, it's just doing nervous system work with them, just to help them, just to get them to back home to their body because they're in a state of fear or anxiety, or they're in a complex state. And I've worked with them in doing some healing modalities together to bring them back to health. And it works well. It's a long process. It's a longer process, obviously. But I think part of my work is for the person to feel that they can relate to me and that they also feel safe with me. So that safety and making sure that they feel comfortable is part of that protocol. If we're not going to use nutraceuticals or supplements or herbs or anything else.
Yeah. Alrighty. Sharon, was there a moment where you genuinely doubted whether embrace functional medicine and holistic health would serve, where you thought that maybe this vision too far ahead of its time? What kept you going?
Ravi.
Mhm.
So true, because initially Embrace was to be born just before COVID started. We were in lockdown for. That brought up a lot of self-doubt. That was I'd stopped my business. I was working, sort of doing Zoom, sometimes telephone health coaching. People were scared. People had gone down with the whole COVID virus. My health perspective had changed. Everybody was watching the TV. Everybody was listening into social media, the narrative that was happening at the time. So people weren't trying to vest any interest in alternative health. So I thought, oh my gosh, I want to start my business. How is it going to happen under this pressure? And that was too long a time for me to really think about. I'd done it before and I really wanted Embrace to start to take off. It became a bit of a questionable time for me in relation to how I thought it was going to get off the ground. I knew there was potential there. I loved the idea. It was always going to happen. But I thought, trust, it was just a divine intervention. The timing was really off for that. A lot of people I know who were starting businesses at the same time I had basically fallen under with it and had closed that.
So they succumb under pressure.
Absolutely, yeah. A lot of businesses have folded as a result of that. And that lockdown was so long, not having an income for so long, not being able to, if you're not an essential worker here in Victoria and you were relying on working in the office, in a business like mine, and the next person who were relying on customers or clients coming in,
Yeah.
it was very hard to survive. So you questioned it. I started to question my career goals, but I didn't want to accept that I would do anything else. So I'm kind of a fighter. If you tell me I can't do something, I'll be very tenacious and keep going with it.
I think you're being very brave and never give up attitude. I reckon because of that, you survived because you didn't succumb under pressure. Others did
Yeah.
because you had that extra bit. I want to get it done and I will. And you did, so good on you already. Sharon, I know people have opinions about healthcare, whether it's going good or bad or ugly or whether it's failing. So what I want to know is if you had 10 minutes in a room with every GP in Australia, what is the one thing you would tell them that they are getting wrong?
Stop over medicalizing and start proper symptom management. Stop providing a pill for every ill. Listen to your patient.
I reckon, and that's not only specific to Australia. I reckon everyone, all the GPs around anywhere on this planet, they need to listen to this. This is what needs to be done. It's not about money. It's not about medication. It's not about being expert in their field. It's about knowing your patient deep down. All right. So you believe healing should feel human, and you did. Yet artificial intelligence, health apps, algorithms driven diagnostics, they are reshaping medicine faster than most people realize. What does the soul go in a world of algorithm?
You just go on your social media now and there's algorithms everywhere. I think there's particular age groups that are more susceptible to being mass marketed by these algorithms. So
Because there's a false narrative about everything.
Absolutely, there is. Perimenopausal women are the first ones. They're mass marketed by being meno washed, bod washed, pink washed.
Yeah.
They say to me, it's driving me nuts because the algorithm's coming up so much, selling me things and confusing me, and I don't know what to do now. It's actually providing me lots of stress and anxiety and pressure. I don't know, like this biohacking in health too.
What people need to be watching and what are the red flags for it so that they don't do it or they don't follow it?
Yeah, absolutely. Swipe, I think change your searching around. Maybe sometimes those algorithms can be quite persistent. I think maybe look at different referencing or wording when you're looking for something. Really be mindful. Is it too good to be true? If it is, then it might be caca. It's too good to be true. Some people will be on, oh, look, if I take one supplement, it's going to fix everything attitude, because that's what they're being. And I think that's what the medical industry is trying to sell. It's trying to sell very quick fixes. And we're not a quick fix. And a lot of these, if I swipe through now and have a look on my socials and see what's coming up as I'm scrolling, there's a lot of quick fixes. There's a lot of huge money making businesses that want my business. They want me to buy that supplement. They saw I was looking at a hair supplement, and now I'm what's being thrown at me is 1,000 other different hair supplements and hair things. So it's really frustrating and it's exhausting for women in my age group. I did an event not long ago. Women in my age group walked in, they were exhausted. They got
What
to
do you
this
say, what do you say my age group? So you look young, you look good. And before we wrap this up, Sharon, I want to give you a moment to speak directly to the people to hear this more. So someone like me, I'm totally exhausted.
Yeah.
I've been to many doctors and they dismissed me saying everything is all right. Now I'm scrolling something at midnight wondering if anyone actually gets what I'm going through, the pain, the trauma. So very brief, what do you say directly to them right now?
Look, don't accept being gaslit by your medical professional. Okay, there's no hierarchy between your medical professional and yourself. You should be on par, right? If you feel you're being swiped past and they're saying everything's okay, ask questions, seek another practitioner, right? Don't settle for that's it. In terms of you then resorting to social media to get the answers, try to not do that because it's not going to be in your best interest. My advice is that you see a health professional who is going to look at you for you, have a look at the underlying causes, at the root cause, and give you the best protocol to suit you, a bespoke protocol. So really looking at your blood work and ignoring all the fluff that's happening in social media. We're doom scrolling once again. It's not giving us the answers we need. It's just falsifying the belief that we have, that it's trying to say, this can make you feel so much better, take it, and all your problems will disappear instantly. That's not the case. It takes work. Looking after yourself, health isn't something that we just do once, one morning and one night of it. It takes work. It takes commitment. And yes, supplements and herbs and things like that are very important, but don't disregard lifestyle, your food, your sense of security and space, your safety. We've got to take into consideration everything. When I was studying in high school, we had Maslow's hierarchy of needs. We have to look at self-actualization, right? That's the top. We need to take into consideration self and spare yourself from all the drama that's happening online. But I say to people, if you are not feeling supported by your practitioner, find someone that's going to listen to you and really get to the bottom of what's going on.
That is so deep and informative. What scares you and what excites you about whatever you're building right now?
Look, I want to branch out into education. I want to get up on stage and I want to be able to empower women in massive numbers. I'm doing what I'm doing one on one with clients, but my ultimate goal is to get out there and empower women and men in the masses. So I want to get out of eventually what I'm doing in this comfort zone, which I love. I love my space here in the clinic, but I really want to branch out and really speak truths about what's going on in the health industry, what's happening, why are we being so misled in the health industry, and just really taking that leap to give women and men the information they need and deserve to have. I'm kind of like a homie. So to get out
Okay.
it
Yeah.
might be a little bit daunting for me.
But online, this could be done, you reckon?
It could be, definitely. But I'd love to engage the masses in person. I'd love to I used to sing, I'd sing in a band and there was the odd audience or whatever, but more than that, I want to
You used
sort
to
of,
sing, really? Oh, why? Your favorite band ever? Name it right now.
Guns N' Roses.
Oh, I'm such a big Guns N' Roses fan. Axl
Wow.
Rose Slash. All right. Sharon, this has been a genuinely one of those conversations I'll be thinking about for a while. The way you hold both the science and the humanity of this work is very rare. And I think people who find you are incredibly lucky. Thank you for your honesty and your passion and for making this so rich. I appreciate you. If this conversation moved you, share it with one person who needs it today. That's how these conversations reach the people who are still in the dark. I'm Ravi Atle. This is Ravi Atle Perspective. Subscribe, leave a comment, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.